All right. Dispersals for the month of April 2022 total $3,814,458, of which $1,125.70 of that was accounts payable. We did have a payment to gross for the Olin Howard Center of $179,085. Payroll of $1,008,606, income payroll taxes on that of $192,547. Financial aid and refunds of $653,327. Utilities $50,671. Commerce bank processing fees $43.79, and equity bank $15 for $3.8 million dispersed during the month of April. Nothing particularly unusual or unique in this one.
Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept that report.
So moved.
For your second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, so Dr. Anderson, we have some resolutions, so I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much. These are two exciting resolutions that we're asking you to consider and approve tonight. The first one has to deal with the Center for Advanced Agriculture and Transportation Technology. I think maybe you've read that in the budget that was passed by the legislature, and it's waiting approval for the governor, the big projects that we were asked to submit were included in the budget for next year using ARPA funding of the federal government funding. So our big project, as you all have been aware of, was this center, which would be an automotive, ag mechanics, our commercial driving academy, and be located on the west side campus, but a similar facility in size of the Olin Howard Center. We have gone through most of concept design of that facility, not fully, but we also now want to move forward knowing that it's very likely the governor is going to approve that funding of $5 million for this facility to secure the financing. So this really puts in place the ability for you to do that. And Adam Pope is here with us from Columbia Capital. He is going to explain what this resolution would allow us to engage with Columbia Capital with, and why now is a good time to begin that part of the process.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, Chairman Wood, and we're good to be here again. This is our third project that we've done with you. So excited to be here again. Like Dr. Anderson mentioned, what this resolution does is effectively hires both us and Gilmore and Bell, who will serve as bond counsel on the transaction, who have worked together. We work together on the Olin Howard Center as well. Hire us and then also allow us to go out and find a financing partner to work with on the new CAP Center. So what we'll do is we'll put together an RFP document similar to what we did on the workforce development project, send that out to the folks that are active in this space that we know are interested, and see what they say, come back, and they'll give us, kind of an indicative what they think the financing will cost. And at that point, we'll begin negotiations with them and begin documenting the transaction. And we'll be back to you in a future date to kind of lay out all the details and explain kind of what that's going to look like going forward. So this just allows us to go out to the marketplace, secure a financing partner, and then we'll be back with you with more information in the future. And like Dr. Anderson said, now is the time to act, both because of the inclusion in the next year's fiscal year budget, but also, as you know, what interest rates are doing. The quicker we can act, the better, because rates have been, I don't even want to say steadily, they've been violently moving up the first half of this year. Luckily, in the municipal market this year, this past week, actually the last several days, they've come down a little bit. So hopefully we've seen a bit of rally in the market. So hopefully that holds for a couple months longer, so we can find a partner and get them engaged. So yeah, now is the time to act. The sooner the better.
So also in conjunction with this, we will continue to work on the design of the facility and move next into, finalizing that concept. Staff is due to come back shortly and then move into construction documents. We are kind of waiting for the final thing for the governor to approve, but we believe that will happen fairly soon. So this just keeps that financing piece moving along kind of in lockstep with the construction of that facility so that we get that secured earlier in the process than we did with the Olin Howard Center. Obviously, the foundation has agreed that this would be a great project to take on. And so Mary has talked to their group about that. And so that would be an expectation that this would be a capital campaign to also complete the funding for it, but we will need the financing to carry that through. So
Will you, Dr. Anderson or Dr. Bates, be able to have an opinion on who responds back to the RFP and determining who they've selected?
Yeah, so, no, well, it's, what the resolution authorizes us and staff to work together to do that. Yeah, all we do is present the facts, and then it's up to Dr. Bates, I guess, to make that decision. So,
yeah.
we kind of, we'll give all the information, our history of working with folks, but yeah, all up to you to make that choice.
So this just allows us to engage with Columbia Capital and Gilmore and Bell so that when we have questions, we can call them. We know that you have approved that engagement so that we can get those answers and moving forward.
What kind of dollar amount of funding are we looking to try to secure on this project?
Right now, we had thought it would be a $10 million facility when we last concepted it, and Justin just stepped out the room in very timely manner, but with escalation of building costs, we think somewhere between 13 and 15, but we said around 13, I think was where. Now, we may want to cut it back in size. It kind of grew as projects do, and then you kind of shrink it back down. So that's where we're estimating it to be. When we have reached out to congressional liaisons about maybe supporting it with some federal funding, I've called it a $14 million project.
Tom, I may have misunderstood your question, but if I understood it correctly, a recommendation for financing that'll come back to the board and you will have a recommendation.
I just wanted to make sure the way I just misunderstood the resolution. It seemed all other matters related, that they were going to be the ones to also determine who were going to the finance. So that's just,
The first sentence in section 1, in collaboration with the college president and vice president.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What kind of rate are you thinking we were looking at?
Tough question.
Because I think Olin Howard was like a 3.7.
Yeah.
What's that?
It was 395.
395.
Yeah.
I was thinking 375.
Yeah. So you're in the ballpark. And that project had some unique aspects to it with some of the funding, so that played into that final rate. I think, what did we say, Keith? We gave you kind of a 5 as the high end of it. So part of it depends, and we talked about what, a 25-year term.
Well, no, for the cap, 15.
15 for the cash, sure. Yeah. So that was kind of a conservative estimate. So you just never know until you go in.
Right.
So, but we think that would be on the high. Hopefully we're somewhere in the forward, but I don't want to make any rates have gone up, but still, if you look over the last 30 years of borrowing, it's still, especially on the long end of the curve, it's pretty flat. We're kind of, the short end has moved up and the long end really hasn't moved that much. So it's still, going from 15 is not extremely high. It's kind of at the midpoint if you look over the last 20 to 30 years of borrowing. So it's still a good time to.
Right. Seems high just because we're.
I know, when you've been at 0 for the past 10 years, it makes it seem high, but you got to kind of step back a little bit and look at the long-term trend. So.
Keith, did you have something you wanted to add?
Okay.
I know you kind of had that look on your face.
All got answered and asked, or asked and answered.
And just, I think we've talked about this previous, but, maybe with some of the new board here and, the thing we put on the foundation is going on fundraising right off the back end of another fundraiser, but we feel comfortable that this is a completely different segment to go fundraise to versus what we did on Howard. Am I correct in saying that, just to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page on that?
So this one would be automotive, agriculture, truck driver training. And so those are areas that we didn't approach with the Olin Howard Center. And so the foundation has talked about there's ample opportunity, especially in the agriculture arena, to have, some good solicitation. We also know that Sunderland, excuse me, has said that they are very likely to fund future projects. And so we think there's some good opportunities of some of the previous donors donating to this one. We would definitely go ask Sunderland Foundation. But they have indicated that they are very interested in our future projects. And so we would hope that that would be something they would, be interested in.
You asked me, I apologize, I should have done this when I started, but for those of you that are new, who's Columbia Capital, who am I, who's this guy? So Columbia Capital is a municipal advisor is what we're called. That was a new term that came about during the Dodd-Frank, during the last financial crisis. We've been in business for over 25 years, headquartered in the Kansas City metro area. We serve purely as financial and investment advisors to state and local governments, 501c3s, higher ed, community college districts. We work mainly in the Midwest, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois. We actually bought a firm in California a couple of years ago, so we did a fair bit of work in California, but we really work all over the country. So we do this type of work kind of every day. And like I mentioned, when I started, this is the third project we're doing with State Fair. I really enjoyed working with you and being a partner. And we work closely with Gilmore and Bell, who's also headquartered in Kansas City, and they're the largest bond council in the state of Missouri, and do basically every bond transaction in Missouri. Gilmore and Bell is involved. So we work with them every day and have a long-standing relationship with Tony, who's the partner assigned to State Fair. So excited again to work again with the college on this very exciting opportunity.
What's your name?
Adam. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We've given a little context there. So
All right, so it looks like you want to do any of the reading of that, or just, we have the resolution in print.
So I will read the very intro, a resolution authorizing the solicitation of direct financing, underwriting, or placement proposals to pay a portion of the cost of the new Center for Advanced Agriculture and Transportation Technology, and authorizing other matters as related.
Motion to approve.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
All right, well, Adam gets to come back to the podium to talk about the next resolution. As you know, we have been engaged in planning for a residence hall. You saw that concept design presented at a previous meeting. And so we are at a point where before we move into construction design, that is going to be a more costly stage of the design. We need to make sure that we have a feasibility that this is going to, that we can get students into the facility at what it's going to cost and what they're willing to pay. And so really, this is a resolution authorizing the solicitation of a feasibility, consulting proposals in connection with the possible construction of a new student residence facility, and authorizing other matters related to, and Adam can explain, but I will just tell you that Dr. Bates has taken the lead on the residence hall project, as you would expect, and we did meet today. He has various things in the timeline of what needs to occur, but really we need this feasibility study. We did one in 2018 when we were looking at constructing, but obviously we had COVID. A lot has changed market-wise and other things. We've also added many new sports, which creates more demand than when we had the feasibility in 2018. And really, to secure a financing partner, or however we choose to finance a new residence hall, a feasibility study will really help with that. And so, Adam, I'll let you take it from there and explain what this would engage with Columbia Capital and Gilmore.
Yeah, similar to the previous one. This resolution engages us and Gilmore and Bell to work with the college secure or to go out and secure a feasibility consultant. Like Dr. Anderson mentioned, once we would get to the financing portion of this anyway, it would probably be required. So it makes sense to go ahead and do it now. Also to help, I know there's some decisions, I guess, that still need to be made on kind of the scope of the project. And we think this will help help with those discussions on kind of the sizing of it, what's the right size, what makes sense. And so we thought to start here, go ahead and get the feasibility consultant engaged, get that work done. Then after that, we'll come back and the college still wants to move forward at that point, and then we can come back and do a similar thing where we secure a financing partner. So this is kind of the first, I don't want to say the first step. The next step in this process to for the student housing.
So when we talked to you about the residence hall project, before we engage with Robert Rawlings Architects, they've done the concepting and we're kind of at a point where they are getting a third party to estimate what we've concepted so far, but we may need, and that's a 300-bed facility. So we're trying to decide, what's more feasible. Do we want to scale it back to a 200-bed? Is a 300-bed facility feasible for us to construct? This will help answer those questions. So then you can move forward with moving into construction documents for whatever size facility. That cost was going to be $400,000.
4 to 5, depending on the size.
Yeah, 400,000 to 500,000. So that's a significant commitment at that point in time. So we felt like it was important to have this feasibility study before that commitment of moving forward with that construction part. Really, at that point in time, then you're committed. You're going to feel like it's very feasible to build this facility and can move forward very as quickly as possible.
What did you say it was 400,000 to 500,000?
We get to through construction documents. Yeah, that also includes the construction registration from the architect.
Is that, now remind me, is that in addition to what we already have, or is that removal of some of what we have? Or all of what
That
we
would
have?
be a brand new standalone facility as it's
And retain
currently
what we
concept.
have already.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, with the idea that once that facility was constructed and completed, many of the students that were housing across in the apartments would be moved into that facility. So the good news is we have capacity beyond what our current residence holds. We've contracted with the units across the street. So that's a good part of a feasibility would say, well, goodness, you're already housing, over a total of, we said 320 or, so students total. Our residence hall alone holds 106. So,
I remember it was a sizable amount of money that we're paying out to the apartments, so.
Yeah.
It's gonna be,
yeah, so we
it's
know
almost
that.
a wash. Almost.
So we know there's capacity, but we do also expect that the cost will be higher to students in a new facility. Construction costs have gone up. So we just want to make sure that we're able to price it at a point where we can fill it at the level to make a payment, an annual payment on a sizable facility.
Yeah, and part of what the report would say would be both the demand capacity for student housing, and then also some on kind of pricing, not recommendations, but kind of pricing ranges for other similar institutions and competing institutions thus far. So that will help kind of with that discussion and that. And once you can know what you can charge, it kind of helps back out how much you can pay, right? Because it won't be structured like a revenue bond, but hopefully that revenue that the housing facility generates will help to pay back some of that debt. So it's kind of all a big nod.
So basically, it's going to hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully, yes, right?
Actually, that feasibility study gives us confidence that it would.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Or the investor's confidence.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's probably the key, is that without a feasibility study, financing it at the level to build even a 200 resident student housing, you're not going to be able to find financing without the feasibility study. So if we want to go forward and explore feasibility study is, for me, would be sort of expected a mandatory first step to take.
And, we anticipate that cost would be below the 20,000. So once we got those bids, we could go ahead and begin that. We don't need your authority. We just inform you if it's less than 20,000. So to keep that ball rolling and, I know, we have people that would like to have a new residence hall as soon as possible, but at least we could get that moving. We anticipate it costing somewhere between around 10 to, Adam said, probably less than 15.
Yeah, with the cost of this study.
Cost of the feasibility study.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know before Justin,
We paid 8 before.
we paid 8 for the one back in 2018.
We had a range of how much.
Yeah, it ranged, high end was 20 on the bid we received at that time.
So no one has the crystal ball, but my thoughts would be that as far as the construction numbers that we're looking at for housing, it would be on the not break even side. We're going to look toward the future as far as having more students on campus or
Well, that's the big question. If we built a 200 capacity residence hall, we're just basically housing the number of students we have right now,
so we have
keeping our current residence
gain,
hall
but not
full.
really gain.
Right. So a 300 bed residence facility allows us to gain about 80 to 90 beds over what we're currently housing between our hall and the apartments.
And what do we have on a wait list? Don't we have a number on a wait list too at some point that we can't even provide a bed to?
Right, we don't have a wait list right now, so we're still filling up the housing, but last year we had 40 or 50 students at the wait list at the start of the semester.
Prior to COVID, we did have a good, a good wait list since COVID.
But we also added an additional building across the way too since then, right?
Right,
Yeah,
Mhm.
we did expand.
Right.
we have.
So that's all part of the study.
Right. And like Adam and Richard articulated, really to understand the financing piece and to get a future financer, they're going to want to see that
Sure.
feasibility so that they know that college has capacity to pay that.
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily say it would be required, but I would think pretty much anyone would want that done.
I think if I were going to be on the hook for how many ever $1 million, I would want a feasibility study to show to my boss that when I recommended it to go forward.
So Keith has plugged in numbers, like I say, a third party, Rollins is getting a third party to really give us a closer cost estimate of what we've concepted to date. I think you've plugged in 22.5 million for a 300
320
bed.
beds.
So just so you kind of know what we're thinking about.
What was that number again?
22.5. So planning right now, prior to getting the estimate, the formal estimate Rawlings is we're planning for looking at $22.5 million for 320 beds. Roughly. That's happening.
And that's the rough concept we saw last
Yes.
time.
Right.
And then Adam, you may have said this and I may have missed it, so I apologize. What was the time frame on getting the feasibility study back? Like how long of a process is this part?
So next week we'll get the RFP document out. We'll give them a couple weeks to respond, and then I would think they could get it done. I don't want to speak for them. I don't know, six weeks. So that would put us kind of maybe into July, early August-ish, hopefully. It depends on their. But I would hope they could. This isn't a huge.
Right.
I mean, it's not a huge project, so hopefully they have capacity and they can get it turned around.
Thank you.
Good questions. Anybody else have anything else? So is there anything you want to read at this point or?
I don't. I've read the
You read that
beginning.
part.
You have the full resolution in front of you, and we're glad to provide it. It will be online.
Okay, all right. So I'll entertain a motion to accept this resolution.
Motion approved.
Second. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right. Thank you very much, Adam.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
So just a side note, Adam said each time he's come, his family has grown. And he just had a recent addition to his family. And so, but this is it, he said.
Yeah. So,
Future
yeah,
projects.
no more projects, no more kids. Yeah. So the first refunding, which was what, 2017. Oh, I should know this, right? I should know when my kids were born. Yeah, but my second was born in the middle of that project. And then I have a 6-week-old at home, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Congratulations.
we'll let him get on the road.
Yeah. I need to head back or else my wife will be at.
Exactly. Well,
Thank you so much.
safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. So Keith, are you ready to talk to us about the City of Bloomsville Science Hall?
Ready to talk to you. Whatever.
Yeah, you've got quite a few things going here.
Yeah, I'm just reporting what other people have going on. So as you know, or as you may or may not know, in Boonville, we occupy space owned by the city with the old Kemper military complex. The city's been very, very good working with us. We pay approximately a little over $2,000 a month plus utilities for the facility there. Anyway, the lease is up coming next year. And basically we have an option to renew it for 2 years. And so it's my recommendation that we exercise that 2-year option. It's a great facility and great partners. And that so asking for your approval to formally accept the 2-year extension of the current lease at the same terms and conditions of the current lease.
How many students do we have at Boonville? Do you know?
About 70, somewhere around 70.
I thought just for the new ones, it might be interesting for them to kind of know. All right. So I will entertain a motion to accept that 2-year lease renewal.
Motion approved.
Here a second.
So
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and now about the Potter Ewing air conditioning.
So I won't go into a lot of detail on this, but I'll summarize. For the past, several years, the air conditioning system at Potter Ewing has struggled during the summer. So I'll just leave it at that, primarily with humidity. So we brought Train out here, they've looked at it, we've studied it. The recommendation there is that we replace the air conditioning system there. The units now, obviously, we still have all the ductwork and everything there, so we go with that. We replace it with upgraded air conditioning that has better dehumidification as well as new controls. We are keeping the units from taking off though, right, Justin, because they still have use in other facilities potentially. Okay. One of the reasons also we're doing it right now is, you remember in the current budget, and I'll kind of preempt a few things here. The current budget, we were given $1.5 million of one-time deferred maintenance funds in the FY22 budget. We're using part of that for asphalting the parking lots. We also have the ability to carry some of that money over, and we have requested to carry some of that over. We're going to use those funds to pay for this, since I think it's good to use as any for the asphalt. So I'm asking and recommending you that you accept the bid for replacement from Train of new rooftop equipment on Potter Ewing. That will be the equipment, the installation, and updated controls for a price of $181,075 from Train Technologies. That was quoted utilizing State of Missouri cooperative purchasing agreement with Train. So we have their reduced governmental rates for that, which is why it was not bid out. Also wasn't because it kind of fits with all the stuff they put in to begin with, which had to be done. So asking that you agree with that, I'll authorize myself, the president, to sign the agreement to do that. And as I mentioned, funding, we'll use funding 100% of our state deferred maintenance funds that we received.
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And I want to ask one question. Were
Yes.
they a part of the original when Train did all of this? Because that was just when I came on the board.
They were replaced. They were replaced
They
in
were.
2013. We've done some improvements to that building, though. We put a new roof on shortly after I got here. So we went from a ballast roof to a insulated roof, which changed some of the dynamics within the building. We've also done a lot of water infiltration around the building. coming off the building, the water that's shed off the building, that sort of thing. So through our operational budget, we've done some improvements to enhance some of those things, diverting water away from the building, getting the roof water from dumping right next to the building and off. But that doesn't fully solve the problem. So because of that's why we're recommending this. But that's why there's still life left in some of those units. If we have about half their life by textbook left, so we can utilize them in some other locations. Off the top of my head, that Tech 2 would be one of the first places to utilize those. So because they're beyond their life.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, and Keith, the classroom multi-touch displays.
Well, while COVID may be waning, the installation of technology that we went on beginning in 2022 equipped all of our classrooms for an exceptional remote learning experience. Still continues as we continue to get equipment in, upgrade equipment, things like that. So part of that we are finishing up this year is 9 additional large multi-touch displays for classroom use to enhance the classroom learning. You see the bid, we did the bid, we got, see the bids here, but the low bid was Schiller's here locally of $32,985. We will use we still have her funds remaining. COVID money remaining, we can use that to pay for this remote learning. So basically asking you to approve the purchase of the additional 9 72-inch multi-touch displays. It's the same ones we have throughout the campus. It's just getting everything in and trying to get everything fully installed. And so funding is through the HERP grant. So ask for your approval to make that purchase. To approve.
All right, do we hear a second? Any more discussion or questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And then let's do the temporary mobile kitchen lease.
And this one I am going to let Justin come up and talk to you a little bit about, because this one has a little more discussion and an explanation of what we're doing in addition to what we did last month.
So what we're requesting is funding to help us secure temporary kitchen facilities to house our Great Western operation in while we do renovation construction. Those bids that bid packet just went out yesterday for the construction project, so we'll be bringing that back to you in June for approval. But what we're trying to do is make sure we have the temporary facilities all secured as well. So it would include a 44 to 53 foot trailer, basically, that we would put on the backside of the Stoffer building, connected to we've got a loading dock back there. We've got utilities already in that area that we can connect to that building. We've got dry storage already back there and ready that we can maneuver around and position accordingly. We already have internally, we have an office trailer that the college already owns, so we can provide them an office, hooking up the utilities. But in addition to the kitchen space, we also need a dish room. So basically it's a mobile trailer or a shipping container that would provide the dish service so that we can clean up the pots and pans. We continue to serve out of styrofoam and disposables like we currently do in the current kitchen until the new kitchen is up and running, and then that would go away. Sure.
Any questions? Keith, are you gonna
Yeah,
read?
so
Is that
what
gonna
we're-
give you time to read?
What we're asking for is you're still in discussions with a couple of vendors on getting the kitchen in place, but if we wait till the June meeting, you won't have time to get it set up for everything. So we're basically,
We got to get on the list with the right company and make sure that.
so we're asking for you to provide him a budget for the time period we're having it of not to exceed 100,000. We do believe it'll be less than that, but giving that budget to go forward, and then bring go to contract with somebody to provide that kitchen. So that's what this is for. I want to be very clear, we don't have the vendor yet, we don't know who it is. But we do want to give him, would ask for the authority, let him and go ahead and contract with a limit to what he can spend.
What are we thinking cost wise? Is this like a one-time fee? Is it as we
They
per month, like?
They base it on a monthly fee, and then there's usually a mobilization and a tear down fee that they're involved with. We're a little different in that we can provide some of the setup and save some of the costs. That's why I really think it will be less than what we're asking for because we have staff to be able to do that. Some facilities, obviously don't have maintenance staff or carpentry staff that could build walkways to these and connect them and those sorts of things, connect utilities and get things kind of pre-set up. Final connections may be done by a service provider, but they mostly charge on a monthly. And they've ranged anywhere from $10,000 a month for the 2 pieces of equipment to $25,000 a month. So that's why I asked for the 100 was just so we can make sure that we can lock in somebody. I've talked to 2 vendors already today, and one of them kind of gave me final pricing. The first vendor that really started giving us numbers was the 25. But I've got $10,000 quotes from offline too without talking to the rep. So I know the range is out there. We can get it narrowed down. We actually had to call us back was just kind of on the higher end. So and Lenny, that was our distinguished alumni a couple years ago, actually was in talks with him because he's in that industry. And he was trying to make some connections for us too. And those haven't all panned out yet, just depending on who you are and what contract you are. His connections have contracts with the federal government right now. So they're doing wildfires in Western United States, and they're doing stuff actually down at the border as well in Texas. So they're kind of all booked up right now. So we've kind of gone back out on our own. But we did involve him and try to get some help there too, just with the expertise.
And I want to talk a little bit about the funding source of this. One thing is Dr. Anderson may share with you later and kind of is we have some funding next year that's one-time funding from the state on a core allocation that I think so this would be a good use of some of those funds. This is a one-time, it's done, it's gone, and that's what those funds will be good for. And it doesn't. So it will come out effectively of a funding budget that we do have coming in, and that's not part of our operating budget. So these could be paid for outside the operating budget. Well,
So we have some non-recurring revenue for that, since we have a non-recurring expense,
yes.
that
It makes
it's
sense.
a logical
Yeah.
offset.
So we want you to be very aware how we're funding this part of it. So asking the board, recommending to the board that I'm hearing the discussion that you approve Justin a budget of not to exceed $100,000 for contracting with Affordable Kitchen. Provide service to our students, obviously, while we're doing the construction, beginning basically from July to end of December. With that, authorize myself, the president, to signing necessary documents and then understanding where the funding source is for that.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you all. Thank you. Justin, the campus is looking amazing, and to think how many projects you have going on and knowing that you have a ribbon cutting coming up. I know that, so tell your staff, thank you for all that you're doing. It's amazing. Okay, so Dr. Anderson.
All right, thank you. And I echo those sentiments. We would like a little less rain though, in the next few days. Just saying, when you drove in, you've noticed that the parking lot renovation is underway, and it was going pretty well until we had some weather issues, but that is scheduled to be completed by the end of next week. And so that should all be done prior to the Owen Howard Workforce Innovation Center grand opening. So that's all good. Also, when you have a chance, I would hope that you would wander down to the campus store, which was relocated before the end of the semester, but it is now located in Yater, and it's a great space, added much retail space to the campus store and a good book location. So Justin's folks did that move along with our campus store, Polly and her team, and tremendous amount of work thinking of moving all of the books, all of the supplies that went with that. So we truly appreciate that. And then obviously once Olin Howard grand opening is done, they can come back and refocus on other projects, which include the Learning Academic Tutoring Center that's going to be built out into the library, and also the TRIO space. So those are projects that are all underway. Just wanted to remind everybody the grand opening for the Olin Howard Workforce Innovation Center, and the governor's office has now reached out, and Jolynn answered almost all of their questions, but, you know, we're very excited that Governor Parson will be here. So I just kind of want to run down that, but I will send you a detailed description. So these are the speakers: myself, our mayor, Andrew Dawson, Patty Wood as the board president, and then Governor Parson, Joe Fisher, who is the president of the foundation, the Owen Howard family, as well as Shirley Rowden and Darlene are going to be there. And I think one of those two or both may speak. And then just wrapping it up, and we have things that will be happening in the center. We have on site the furniture for the classrooms as well as the lobby that's going to be set in place next week. It's getting a cleaning by the contractor, but then our folks are scheduled to come in and really devote next week and all the time available before the grand opening to really get that facility set and ready to go. We had a meeting today about that to just kind of dot the i's and cross the t's, but and maybe as we have told you or not, the foundation is paying for lunch for everyone, but it's being prepared by the Missouri Cattlemen's Association. So there will be free lunch. That will be a delicious lunch provided. We have some very nice giveaways and information that will be provided for people touring the facility. And we really want to showcase what's going to happen in there. And Michael Rogg is in the room, and he is so excited about a 5-axis precision machining that he says is in demand. And he has had people in Springfield even reach out to us about maybe us doing training because there aren't others available in the region. So I told him, you know, we will describe that as well. So it is going to be a phenomenal facility, and we're really looking forward to that day. Like I say, we have, then there will be tours, working demonstrations, and with the foundation supporting that as well. Obviously, a great opportunity to recognize and thank all of those who have participated in the fundraising for that facility, along with thanking the governor and our legislators for their support, because we've gotten support from all avenues. We do have some legislators who will be there, so we're very grateful for that. And I would entertain any questions if you have any about that.
But Mary, you also have the donor reception that evening,
That's an invite only.
invite only, but I think it should be noted that there is a separate event being held for the folks who made financial contributions to make the Olin Howard Center possible, in addition to the general ribbon cutting and opening presentation.
Mary, the name spaces will be designated so that when people get tours, they'll be able to see who those significant contributions have come from, where they've come from. We have Haas Corporation is sending folks, and there will be some check presentations that day, potentially 2 or 3 check presentations that will be happening right before or during that event. So it's going to be a very significant thing for our college and the community as well. But yes, we couldn't have done it without the support of the foundation. Obviously, Joe Fisher and Steve Ellebrock as campaign chairs for that event have been, you know, tremendous in securing contributions for that facility. So, and if the governor signs the MOIC cells and the budget piece prior to that day, and we're going to put a bug in his ear, maybe he would like to do that here on our campus that day, it will take them over the top of what their campaign goal was of 10 million. So we could announce that while that goal is met, there will still be named opportunities in the fielding renovation. So congratulations. I know. She's still working. So, And the reason I want to tell you these numbers, though, is when the governor is here, it really is an opportunity for us to thank him and his focus on workforce. Dr. Bates and Michael Rogg and I went to Hitachi's 50th anniversary celebration in Jefferson City on Tuesday. And the governor for the last number of years, even when, he was lieutenant governor, talked about his two priorities were workforce and infrastructure. He talked about that again at their 50th anniversary celebration, but the state budget has had funds for workforce, and I know the governor is very proud of that, and which includes, our Mo Excels money. In the current budget this year, we got 2.4 million, and we're scheduled, once he has signed, to get an additional 2.4 million in next year's budget, which would take us over the top of that 10 million total for that Center for Excellence in Advanced Manufacturing, that whole concept of that. So along with that, the state budget that got passed by the legislature included a 5.4% increase for higher education. So we're still working on the budget final numbers, which we will bring to you a budget at the next board meeting. But that core increase is going to be $760,000 to our core funding, which are for general operations. The one-time money that Keith mentioned was community colleges got a $10 million allocation of one-time monies. And so there was discussion among the presidents and chancellors about how to divide that among our 12 institutions. And so we agreed on a formula. Since it's one time, it didn't go through the funding formula that we had previously approved. But anyway, for state fair, that piece will be $680,000. So one-time money is $680,000, and we've got lots of places that could go, but a good place would be the dining. But you can spend that in a lot of different areas. And then obviously the budget includes the $5 million for the CAT, and so those are all great things to thank the governor and our legislators for approving, and hopefully those will be signed soon. Just a reminder, when you look at your schedule of the trustees conference, we have folks that will be attending the presidents and chancellors meet ahead of that piece, and we'll be discussing about the kind of the strategic plan for MCCA and looking ahead at the funding models. Do we, are we fully on board with those funding models? They are unique, and so we want to, that will be a part of that. Dr. Bates will be there, I will be there as well, but really we'll be looking out for the best interest of State Fair when those meetings occur. And I hope as many of you as can attend the trustees part, which you'll come in on the Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, we have a health science commencement on the 24th of June on that Friday. So that will be my last formal commencement, and then our board meeting on the 30th. So summer classes begin soon, and I just also want to say that thanks to Jolene's fishing abilities and cleaning and cooking, the president's office hosted a fish fry for all of the volunteers. I'm sorry, you all didn't get invited, but the volunteers of employees who helped with commencement, because we reach out and take volunteers from throughout the college. And so we held a fish fry yesterday up in maintenance area, and she did most of the hard work. I just brought a few things, including the cookies are left from that event if you'd like a cookie on the back table, and some other things. But it was fun. It was a great opportunity to celebrate with our employees what they do for us. So I would entertain any questions, but that's my report.
So the ribbon cutting, what time should we arrive?
A great question. Be here by 9:30.
There's
Now,
a lot going on.
Yeah, there is a lot. We have asked the governor's office if he wants a tour ahead of the ribbon cutting or after, and we are waiting on that response. I would like for when he gets the kind of the VIP tour to have you board members there along with, we've talked about some instructors and some students who would be there, and also the foundation. So he likes to do that. Usually he wants to come in, and so if it's after the ribbon cutting, we will make that announcement, tell people to go get lunch. While, Patty, I hope you're not having to cook.
You've got-
Thanks, Betsy.
Yeah, I'm sure you could, but I know you've arranged.
I have arranged.
Yeah. So, and then we will, they're more than likely he will have it afterwards. So there will be a VIP tour, and then we'll let everybody else into the facility. Good question. So,
Did you mention the Wednesday, the employee recognition?
Well,
I know it's on the calendar, but I only had 3 trustees at RSVP, which I'm no pressure for you to attend. I just wanted to make sure if you did want to attend and you have an RSVP, let me know ASAP, because we need to let Mike know on the food. So, so if you haven't, let me know, and you want to.
yeah, it's,
If you don't, it's okay. It's not required by any means.
just another date. Tom Pache is also retiring, and so there is an opening, the Dom opening. Well, the artist talk is on June 2nd that evening, and so the artist talk begins at 6. So at about 5 till there will be some remarks honoring Tom's service to the college. He started here in 2008 and has been, a great director, curator of the Dom Museum. Yeah.
It starts at 6.
Yes, so. But, I think actually there's drinks and some that food and that kind of thing ahead of that. So, but, if you're here at 5:30, there will be people here, but the remarks, and then the artist talk begins at 6.
Anything else?
That's a lot of, it looks like it's kind of a downtime, but a lot of work. Oh, one other thing, yes. I had on my list and I just skipped over it. Good news, our Upward Bound program, that we have 2 Upward Bound grants at Smith Cotton is one, and then we have a second grant that is the split between Eldon and Camdenton. Upward Bound was notified that those 2 grants were refunded, renewed, and so Jeremy Lehman, who's the director of our Upward Bound program, said it was kind of a weight off his shoulders at those 2. We had also applied for 2 additional grants. It's a slim possibility, but it is a possibility that they could be funded. They weren't in the first round, but it's possible that if there's additional funding, they could be. But right now, the 2 grants that we have been refunded, and that's really good news. So yes, I think that was pretty much everything on this.
Okay. All right. So Keith, your financial report.
So we're kind of in the home stretch of the year right now. For the most part, our revenue is in. Summer is about 10% of our tuition fees. Still have that added to this, but you'll see tuition and fees there actually have recovered somewhat versus the prior year. You really see the difference though from 2020, which is really the pre-COVID year, what the impact, so to speak, of COVID is on that. And we can't ever forget that that did occur, and that's something we deal with our new budgets, all of that. But we are kind of recovered from last year on that. You'll see throughout here where everything stands. So bottom line, we are still positive. Again, except for even the revenues, which will be behind. We'll be a little bit behind on our budget on revenues. Expenses seem to be on track with what I would expect, if not even slightly below. So that I'm hopeful that we'll end up essentially where we thought we would. In the grand scheme of things of a multi-line item budget of that. So that regard, any thoughts and questions on the budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one primary revenue source that is significant and is below budget is the state appropriation. And so what's the status? The money's coming in from the state of Missouri on appropriations and about how much money are we looking at receiving for fiscal year 2022?
So one of the challenges of any accounting system that was built before you got here is that it summarizes about a 5,000 line chart of accounts into 8 lines here. On state appropriations, what that does, what's in that line, there's really 3, we have 3 state appropriations this year. One is what we think of as our state as our core recurring appropriations. So of that 8.4 million budgeted, 6.7 of that is the recurring core. The 2 other items in that is we have a maintenance repair fund where we match 50-50 with that. That budget's 186,537 of it. And then this year we had the special $1.5 million allocation to that. So that 1.5 gets added in as well to that. So this state appropriations line is 3 different things. It's our recurring, what we really think is what we get from say our recurring core, but it's also the maintenance repair as a state allocation, and the 1.5 maintenance repair one time. It is a state allocation. Those get lumped in as they should for that one line of state appropriations. So year to date, so on the current, the core recurring, the 6, we get that's split out 514,000 whatever per month. So it hits every month. So you're on target for that one. Every month, that's the same. That 6.7 will be that. Actually, it's going to be a little above that because after we did the budget, the MCA formula they kind of done. So we're getting a little more action on that than we thought we were going to get in the beginning, about 60,000 more. So that one is 100%.
So we have an additional 1.1.
Right. So now the rest of it. So you've got another, I'm talking about another 1.686.
Okay.
We need to talk about. 186 of that is we get money from the state for maintenance repair that is specific to maintenance repair, and they match us 50-50. I have submitted all of that now. As of today, we've received 170 of the 186, and they'll get the other 1/12 of it in June. So that one's gonna be 100%. One of the reasons I kind of held off, we were waiting to see what's happening with this one-time maintenance repair to see if there was some money that might be better off spent there. You're playing a little bit of the which budget item do you want to use routine. Well, what happened is they decided about 6 weeks ago that they would allow us to carry over some of the $1.5 million into next year. When that happened, it's like, okay, good. Now we're freed up to do some things. So we elected to have half of the money deferred into next year. So now we've got 750 that effectively we need to spend this year. So of that, so the 1.5 we're talking about now, that's not here. 750 of it now gets pushed over, or however much we end up not using, whatever the exact number is. The other is the paving, the asphalting. That's about 800,000 or so. That 800,000 is going to be submitted, and there's no match for that. That's what you get. We'll submit that. I have to have it submitted by June 10th, so we'll probably submit it next week when we need to actually want to get it done, get the invoice and submit it. So effectively, it will get it all. It's just a timing issue really on the 1.5 is what made this look really out of whack, truthfully.
Okay.
And because that's where the big thing in. So we will end up spending, take your 6.7, your 1.8, and then roughly 800,000 of the 1.5. That will all be spent. And then next year, what we'll end up with effectively is we'll have another we have the non-recurring Dr. Anderson talked about. Now we'll have this same non-recurring and maintenance repair roughly, 700,000, which is what I referred to with the air conditioning systems for part of Ewing, who used part of that to carry it over. But so that's why this looks out of whack, because you're combining 3 related yet different budgets into one line item for the purpose of the report. Does that help you?
Yeah, it's saying that the significant budget items are going to come in.
They'll come in right where they need to be. In fact, a little slightly over because the way the core got reconfigured.
So those state appropriation items, our expenditures are going out regularly.
Yes.
But there's an irregular pattern to
Receipts.
revenues but within the fiscal year, we will end up about where we expect.
Right, so next year, if you think about next year, for instance, the way it will happen next year, there's gonna be 3 items again going next year. The recurring core, which is, gonna be 7.4 million and change. The one-time core allocation she spoke of, now that will probably come to us in regular monthly installments as well. But then our maintenance and repairs are about 190, that will be, and then 650 you'll talk about. Those will be kind of as incurred. Now, those will probably be incurred earlier in the year next year than this year. This year, the big one was we had to wait for weather and winter to get this because we knew we wanted to use the bulk of those monies, not only on this part of the lot, but also behind backside. And we didn't know how much that was going to cost. So we were a little bit nervous spending too much others. But then when they decided to let us move over, we all had a big sigh. They said, okay, good, now we can do this. So yeah, it gets somewhat. Yeah, just cash. It's a cash flow situation sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that the expenditures were going to keep going out.
Yeah, it's a good
But
question.
was the revenue going to keep coming in?
Because it's worth, because there was I won't say a point I was right, but there was, I was watching closely, knowing the 1/2 is what I was getting, most cognizant of how we were going to utilize it if they had not decided to roll it over, which they did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that. The state noticed that this one-time money was not getting spent, and they were getting a little nervous too. And so all the other community colleges had significant projects that, because of either delays or other things, we were all in a situation where we were hoping those funds could be rolled over. And so they asked us how much we wanted to roll over. We specified what we knew this was going to cost and what was reasonable. And so, we may expend a little more in this year, it's okay, but we can roll over that maximum that Keith mentioned, which we said all along, if that 1.5 million, we wanted to do the parking. We said some could go to the dining kitchen project and other, facility repair and renovation projects. So it just, there still are conditions on that 1.5 million. So it can be not new construction, but it can be, repair and renovation. So
That's for deferred, we all said we have a lot of deferred maintenance needs. They said, we hear you, here you go.
I just knew that we had more money
No.
expected to go out in May and June than was coming in.
When you have a 3-legged stool, which is, tuition and fees, property taxes, and state, and one of the legs is a little short, it wobbles a little bit, so we have to make sure that other leg's getting there, keep us balanced.
Thank you, Keith. We appreciate you working those numbers and keeping on top of that for us. Thank you. Okay, so board discussion. I'll start out and lead with one that I thought about as we bring on new board members. It is a part of policy of 04110 or 10 that, our meeting is set on the 4th Thursday of the month and it's at 4 o'clock. But as we bring new board members on, I think that it's kind of a conversation we need to have to know if that time and day of the month is working for you. So, Jolynn, thank you for including that in your board packet so that you kind of can see, what it says. And so, as with all board policy, it's something we need to be looking at and reviewing. So, what's your thoughts, or do you want to have time to think about it?
I like the day, and not a lot of the major events such as for the city or state have a lot of meetings. I would appreciate a 5:30 time for the work day. I mean, I want to be accommodating to staff as well, but
Patty asked me and I said 5:30 a.m. was.
Because I went to. You gotta learn. Yeah, so I went to him, because it's like, yeah, this is going to affect him and it will affect many, but I just wanted to let him know we were gonna talk about it. And I said, so somebody mentioned 5:30. He goes, yeah, 5:30 a.m. sounds good to me. I know he's up and walking his dog at that time.
Yeah, I have a special veto of 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Richard,
Yeah.
how dead set is everyone on the last Thursday? What about the first?
Right now, it's actually the fourth Thursday.
It's usually.
There are some reasons why it's toward the end of the month to get the financials all in place. Keith is very efficient with that. So, they've been coming earlier, but there are some things that.
The hiring usually helps too at the end of the month.
Yes.
Because I've been bombarded with that stuff coming in at the last minute, so.
Well, if we carry it over to the following month, if we have it the end of the month, the month before, we just carry it over to the next week of the next month.
I have a standing commitment on the first Thursday and the third Thursdays of
See,
each
mine's
month.
a variable commitment on the last Thursday. What is the last Thursday for me?
Is it not the last or is it the?
Mine's the
fourth?
last,
Yours-
which
It's only when
which
it's over
ironically
3.
sometimes ends up being the
Sure.
fourth as well.
Sure.
Would a later time help with yours?
It's court related.
Oh, okay.
So I can't go, excuse me, you're no judge. And he doesn't like that. So,
So historically, I'll just give you a little history. When I came, the board meetings were held at 7 o'clock on Tuesday evenings. Then they were moved to 11 o'clock on Tuesdays.
And that
And
was the
then
new
they were
one, was
moved
had a-
to 4 o'clock on Thursdays. Yeah. So just so you know, the board has, depending upon the makeup of the board, changed board meeting dates, times, those 3 times since, well, they were set when I got here twice since.
see, Tuesdays would be awesome for me personally.
I forget why we moved it off the two. There was something.
It was Nick.
Oh, it must, there was a
Oh,
reason
yeah.
why it moved from
That's always-
Tuesday. Yeah,
What'd you think,
that's
Richard?
true. That was true, Nick.
My situation is that the day of the week really doesn't matter. So that it's just a matter of being able to schedule. I have a Wednesday evening commitment. But other than that,
That is right. We moved it because Nick, Tuesdays were a conflict for that
For
board
the election.
member, so.
I often have a first and a fourth Tuesday commitment as well.
You just won't kill me.
I did not. I'm just being transparent.
Well, we may need some time to
Okay,
find out
so,
a good schedule.
Yeah. all
I
right,
just said, mine won't change as far as the last Thursday of the month. It has been set as our court date for the 13 years I've been there.
right.
So 90% of the time, it's not an issue. But there's other 10 that I'm leaving and going to Springfield, they're going to wherever. So
So, I know some other community colleges that have their meetings on Monday, but that's a conflict with the city, so, yeah.
plus
So
holidays
you've got-
too. Usually
yeah,
it carries
and
over.
holidays. Well,
All right, well, I'll try to see if we can't, reach a consensus through something,
Yeah,
and we can try to figure out what maybe would
we may
be.
not need to move it at all, and maybe.
Because your time, though, if we made it later, wouldn't help on Thursday.
Later in the evening,
Uh-huh,
not for the issue that I'm talking.
that's your time, okay.
Because like I said, 90% of the time, the time we have the meeting now is okay. It would be better for me to be at 5:30. because
Okay.
the Close of our business day is at 4:30.
Okay,
So I'm leaving early every time, so.
so, this, it's with people who work. That's why we have to look at you guys and say, is a 5:30.
5:30 is okay.
So, we'll work on that and hopefully by next month we can come, and make sure that, because we do want to make it work for the staff and the executive leadership team.
Tim does 7 o'clock or something like that, work better on those
In the
4
evening?
Tuesdays.
Now, like I said,
You
it's
still
it's
can.
just that small chance that things go haywire.
Yeah.
And I won't know until 11 o'clock that morning what's going to happen.
All right, so just know we'll try to do something by next month to, to make sure that we accommodate for everybody's time. The only other thing I have is make sure that you tell Jolynn if you're going to go to NCCA so that she can make those arrangements. Be sure to let Rachel or Jolynn know about the employee recognition banquet that's coming up next week. Does anybody have anything in the way of?
Just a couple of quick things. Well, we're talking about dates. Remember a trustee reception with Dr. Anderson on June 15th at German Table in Cold Camp. And if we could, Jolynn, if you wouldn't mind sending out an RSVP.
Already did.
Already
Should be
did.
getting it today or
Oh,
tomorrow.
great,
Tomorrow.
great. It wasn't in my email today, but thank you.
It'll be coming in the snail mail.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for getting that taken care of. But that's a invite for trustees during, while President Anderson has been here, and then executive leadership team, and so we look forward to that. Also, we did the presidential reception for the community on May 1st. And at the meeting today, I'd like to thank Jolynn and Mary and Rachel for all the assistance and all the work that they've put in to help coordinate the event. And I was, and I don't know about Dr. Anderson, but as a trustee, I was pleased with the event.
It was very, very nice and very much appreciated, and it's going to have to be a big, big thank you on the 30th.
I spent half a day last month really touring the grounds of the entire facility, getting the chance to meet quite a bit of the staff and at least shaking their hands. So I appreciate Jolynn and all the staff for letting me take a couple minutes of your time and everything. If as a board, if you haven't taken a couple of hours to just shake hands or something, I highly recommend that. There was quite a bit of appreciation from the staff of just being able to place a name with the face with the name. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for the breakfast the other morning too. Appreciate the conversation.
Gave you free breakfast.
No, it's just a meet and greet for a new member of the board.
Well, I guess
I think I just caught you out there.
Yeah,
All right.
I have one question.
Sure.
It's from a citizen. And the question was, I'll be honest with you, I had no answer for him whatsoever. I had some answers given me, but they pointed to Justin and said, "You're the top dog, you would know." Is that true?
There's always questions.
There was placement of a granite stone that my understanding depicted plywood U, and it was set in the area, I believe today.
It was set where the old Howard building sits right now.
Okay, and the person who had crafted that one night was just curious what our plans, if any, for
The big picture plan has always been to try to relocate it back in that area somewhere, but we have not defined the exact location yet. So it is sitting in a protected area of the facilities plant, not in the weeds, but in a very place where it can't get.
Yeah,
overgrown
and
moss.
that's what I was
It's
told.
out front so that we can get that plant back in. But
Well, he just asked somebody heave hose and threw it into a dumpster.
No.
I said, that'd be a big
Right outside my
horse.
door.
I'd say it'd be a big horse if they did that, but nonetheless. So it exists, it's going to be replaced once things settle down as far as construction.
yeah, it was set between two brick pillars. So we kept the granite tops of the pillars, and we kept obviously the granite piece that had the inscription and a picture of plywood view, the original structure as well. So a new structure to hold all of that would need to be built and constructed and designed.
Okay. Dustin, it's your turn.
What's that?
It's your turn.
I'm good.
Sure.
No, you're good. All righty, so looks like we are ready to go into closed session for C, which is hiring, firing, disciplining, or promotion of personnel pursuant to RSMO section 610.0213.
So moved.
Patty,
Oh,
I
whoops.
also think that we probably should have some discussion on a lease purchase or sale
Okay,
of real estate.
okay, so we're also going under 610.0212. All right, so we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Amy Brashears,
Yes.
Tim Carr,
Yes.
Justin Huggs,
Yes.
Tom Holden,
Yes.
Richard Parker.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. You're welcome to step outside and come back in. We'll go back into regular session. Our next meeting is, in case you leave, is June the 30th. So that's a different date because we'll be gone to NCCA. So,
And we do anticipate a work session because it's the budget.
all right, take care,
As
guys.
early as 3, or are you thinking early? Okay.
Probably 3 will do.
I'm a positive for NCCA.
Did you read my post? I don't post hardly ever.
It doesn't matter, you're not saying anything bad.
No, anyway, so